The sense of taste is a telegraphist. Don't seduce it by gratifying it. Note: this piece forms the seed of İktisat Risalesi, the 19th flash. Indeed, he expressed in 10 lines the 10-page treatise on frugality before it came into existence. Divine dominicality, wisdom, and grace made two centers with the mouth and nose, placing within them a frontier post and correspondence. In the microcosm, God made the blood vessels telephones and the nerves telegraphs. That true provider made the sense of smell a telephone and posted the sense of taste to the telegraph. Out of his mercy, he put an instruction sheet on the food, flavor, and color, and smell. Thus, these three attributes are proclamations, invitations, permits, and heralds on the part of the food. With them, it invites the needy and its customers. He gave taste, sight, and smell to the feeding animals as tools. He adorned the foods with various decorations, then suited their flighty breasts and attracted the indifferent by exciting them. When the food enters the mouth, the sense of taste immediately sends telegraphs to every part of the body. The sense of smell telephones, giving information about the types of foods. The senses act according to all the different needs of the different animals receiving food. The necessary preparations are made, or it receives a refusal. Then they throw it out and spit it in your face. Since they have been charged with this by wisdom, don't seduce them with pleasure. Don't deceive them by gratifying them, for then they will forget what true appetite is. False appetite will be burned, it will strike your head, bringing illness and disease as penalties. True pleasure springs from true appetite from true need. This pleasure is ample for king and beggar alike. Moreover, a dinar and a dirham are equal, the pleasure jumbles them together, soothing the pain. Like intention, point of view may transform habitual actions into worship. Note this point. Just as through intention, permissible habitual actions may become worship, so, according to the point of view, the physical sciences may become knowledge of God. If you study and reflect, that is, if you look at things as signifying one other than themselves, and in respect to art, how beautifully the Maker made this, how well He did it, instead of how beautiful it is. If you look from this point of view at the universe, the inscriptions of the eternal inscriber, his order and wisdom, and flashes of purpose and art will illuminate your thoughts. The sciences of the universe will become knowledge of God. But if you look at things as signifying themselves from the point of view of nature, saying, the thing looks to itself alone. If you look thus at the universe, whatever the extent of your scientific knowledge, it will be ignorance. Wretched truths become worthless in worthless hands. The witnesses to this are many. At this time, the Sharia does not permit us affluence. When tasty foods call one should say, it is as though I ate it. For someone who made this his rule did not eat a mosque. Note, there is a mosque in Istanbul called Sanki Yedim, it is as though I ate it. The man who said, it is as though I ate it, saved himself from his appetites and built the mosque with the proceeds. Formerly, most Muslims did not go hungry, they enjoyed comfortable living to an extent. Now, however, most have declined into penury, and the Sharia no longer permits the taking of pleasure. The subsistence of the mass of Muslims and most innocents is simple. It is 1,000 times preferable to follow them in their simple sustenance than to resemble the extravagant minority or the few profligates in their luxurious living. Sometimes the absence of bounty is bounty. Memory is a bounty, but for an immoral person at times of misfortune, forgetfulness is preferable. Forgetfulness is also a bounty. It allows one to suffer the pains of only one day. It makes one forget the accumulated sorrows. All misfortunes have sides which are bounty. O you, smitten by misfortune, within the misfortune is a bounty. Look closely and you will see it. Just as in everything is a degree of heat, so in every calamity a degree of bounty is to be found. Think of a worse calamity, then see the extent of the bounty in the lesser one, and offer abundant thanks to God. For if you are scared by exaggerating it, and whine and complain, it will grow. And as it grows, it will worsen. If you are anxious, it will double. Its image in your heart will turn into fact. It will learn from reality, then turn on you and start striking your heart. Don't appear important, or you will be put down. O you with an inflated ego and conceited head, you should understand this rule. In the social building of the human community, everyone has a window called a rank in which to see and be seen. If the window is larger than a person's stature and worth, he will stretch and lengthen through pride. But if the window is smaller than his stature and aspiration, he will bend and bow down out of modesty. In the mature and perfected, the measure of greatness is smallness, while in the faulty, the measure of littleness is bigness. If qualities change places, their natures change. One quality, different places, one face. It is sometimes a demon, sometimes an angel, sometimes upright, sometimes wicked. Some examples are these. If an attribute which for the weak in the face of the strong is considered to be dignity, is found in the strong, it is pride and arrogance. If an attribute which for the strong before the weak is considered to be humility, is found in the weak, it is abasement and hypocrisy. In his office, a person of authority's gravity is dignity, and his humility abasement. But in his house, his humility is modesty, and his gravity arrogance. Tolerance in someone speaking on his own account is patriotism, and self-sacrifice, a quality, a good deed. But if the person is speaking on account of others, his tolerance is treachery, and self-sacrifice, an attribute, a wicked act. In setting up the preliminaries, reliance on God is laziness. But handing over to Him in the reaping the consequences is the reliance taught by the Sharia. Contentment with one's lot in respect of the fruits of one's labor is praiseworthy contentment and strengthens the desire to work. But sufficing with extant goods is not desirable contentment, but lack of aspiration. There are numerous other examples. The Qur'an mentions absolute good works and taqwa. By its indefiniteness, it hints at the extent of degrees. Its conciseness is a detailed explanation, its silence an expansive word. Both truth will prevail, and its consequences are intended. Friend, one time a questioner asked, since truth will prevail, is the truth, why have the infidel prevailed over the Muslim and force over right? I replied, consider these 4 points and your difficulty will be resolved. The first point is this. It is not necessary that every means of every truth is true. Similarly, not every means of every falsehood has to be false. This results emerges a means which is false prevails over a true means, in which case a truth is overcome by a falsehood. It occurs temporarily and indirectly, not essentially or permanently. However, finally, it is always still the truth. Force possesses a truth. There is an underlying meaning in its creation. The second point is this. While it is obligatory that all attributes of all Muslims are Muslim, outwardly it is not always thus. Similarly, not all the attributes of all infidels have to be infidel and to arise from their unbelief. So too, all the attributes of all sinners do not always have to sinful and have arisen from their sinfulness. This means an infidel's Muslim attribute prevails over a Muslim's unlawful attribute. Indirectly, the infidel prevails over him. Furthermore, in this world, the right of life is general and all-embracing. It is a universal mercy that has a meaningful manifestation, a wise inner purpose, which unbelief does not impede. The third point is this. Two of the all-glorious one's attributes of perfection, two legislative manifestations, the determining through his choice, which proceeds from the attribute of will, and that is the Sharia of creation, and the well-known Sharia, which proceeds from the attribute of speech. Just as there is compliance and rebellion in the face of the commands of the latter, so there is compliance and rebellion before the creational commands. The reward and punishment for the former is received mostly in the hereafter, while the penalties and rewards of the latter are suffered mostly in the realm of this world. For example, the reward of patience is victory, the penalty for laziness is poverty, and the reward of toil is wealth. The reward of constancy is victory. The penalty of poison is illness. The reward of its antidote is health. Sometimes the injunctions of both Sharia are included in a single thing. It has faces looking to both. That means obedience to the creational command is a truth. Obedience prevails. Rebellion in the face of the injunction is a false stand. If a truth has been the means to a falsehood, when it prevails, it will have been the means to a falsehood. Indirectly, a truth is defeated by a falsehood, but not essentially. This means that the truth prevails means essentially. Also, the end is intended, and the restriction of viewpoint is meant. The fourth point is this: a truth remained unexpressed, or powerless, or adulterated, or convoluted. It needed to be expressed and opened up, or given fresh strength. In order to improve and gild it, falsehood had to be temporarily imposed on it in order to assay that ingot of truth. Then it could emerge pure and unadulterated from its origins. Even if falsehood prevails in this world, it cannot win the war. The future belongs to the God conscious, will strike them a blow. So falsehood is defeated. The mystery of truth prevails, inflicts punishments on it. See, truth prevails. A few social principles. If you want some principles for society, unequal justice is not justice. Resemblance is an important reason for contrariety. Mutual proportion is the basis of solidarity. Small-mindedness is the source of pride. Pusillanimity is the mine of arrogance. Impotence is the source of opposition. Curiosity is the teacher of knowledge. Need is the master of progress. Distress is the teacher of dissipation. Thus, the source of dissipation is distress. As for distress, its mine is despair and pessimism. Misguidance springs from ideas. Darkness stems from the heart. Wastefulness pertains to the body. Women left their homes and led mankind astray. When men become amiable through following their fancies, women become masculine by being impudent. Note, this is the basis of Tasattur Risalesi, the 24th flush, treatise on Islamic dress for women. 20 years later, a court of law forever shamed itself and its judges by making it the pretext for the author's conviction. Low civilization took womankind out of their homes and turning them into common goods, destroyed the respect in which they were held. The Sharia of Islam mercifully invites them back to their homes. It is there they are respected, in their homes they are comfortable in family life. Cleanliness is their adornment, their good character is their splendor, their gracious beauty is their chastity, their compassion, their perfection, their children, their relaxation. With so many tools of corruption, one has to be as strong and unyielding as steel to withstand them. A beautiful woman entering a gathering of brothers arouses veins of hypocrisy, rivalry, envy, and selfishness. Slumbering desires suddenly awaken. Increased freedom for women led to a sudden unfolding of bad morality in mankind. The represented forms of little smiling corpses have played a large role in making the evil, polluted, perverse spirit of modern man what it is. Note, just as to look lustfully at a dead woman shows an awesomely degenerate soul, so to look at a beautiful picture of an unfortunate female corpse needed for compassion extinguishes the elevated sentiments of the spirit. The prohibited statue is either petrified tyranny, or embodied lust, or personified hypocrisy, or it's a talisman attracting those evil spirits. The scope of divine power rejects intermediaries and helpers. From the point of view of the comprehensive effectiveness of the disposals of the all glorious and powerful one's power, our sun is like a particle. There are vast disposals of power in a single realm of beings. Take the gravity between two particles, then go and put it beside the gravity between the sun of suns and the Milky Way. Bring an angel whose lot is a snowflake to the radiant angel who holds the sun. Put a needlefish beside a whale. Conceive at once of the vast manifestation of the eternal all-powerful one of glory, his perfect art in things from the smallest to the greatest. Customary matters like gravity and laws, fluid intermediaries, are only names for the manifestation of his power and the disposal of his wisdom. They signify him alone. They can have no other meaning. Think of them together. You will necessarily understand the true cause. In the view of that power, apparent intermediaries, helpers, and partners are all false, all imaginary and impossible. Life is the perfection of existence. Its rank is high and important. Consequently, I say, why should the globe, our world, not be obedient and subjugated to it like an animal? Living birds of the eternal sovereign of this sort are numerous, spread through the arena of space, majestic, beautiful. Dispersed through the garden of creation, they spin, their refrains, their motion are words of glorification, modes of worship of the eternal undying one, the eternal all-wise one. The globe resembles a living being, it displays signs of life. If to suppose the impossible, it was reduced to the size of an egg, there is a strong possibility it would become a tiny animal. If a microorganism was expanded to the size of the earth, most probably it would be just like it. If the world was reduced to the size of a man, and the stars transformed into particles, it is possible it would become a conscious animal as well as intelligent. This means the world, with all its parts, is a glorifying servant of the undying Creator, the eternal all-powerful One, obedient, subjugated. To be large quantitatively does not always infer being great qualitatively, for a clock the size of a mustard seed is more eloquent than a clock the size of Hagia Sophia. A fly's creation is more wondrous than that of an elephant, that undiscriminating creature. If a Qur'an was to be written by the pen of power in atoms of ether on the minutest particle, the art being in inverse proportion to the size of the page, its eloquence would be equal to a Qur'an written in stars on the face of the heavens. The pre-eternal inscriber's art is everywhere of the utmost beauty and perfection. Everywhere it is thus. The pen proclaims divine unity, since it always works with utter perfection. Study carefully this most meaningful piece. The angels are a community charged with the Sharia of creation. There are two divine Sharias, proceeding from two attributes. Man is addressed by both and bound to comply with both. The Sharia of creation, which proceeds from the attribute of will, orders the circumstances and motions of the world, the macrocosm, which are not voluntary. It is dominical will and is also wrongly termed nature. The Sharia proceeding from the attribute of speech is the code of laws, which orders the actions of man, the microcosm, which are voluntary. The two Sharias sometimes come together in the same place. The divine angels are a vast community, a divine army. They are obedient bearers of the first Sharia, workers and representatives. Some of them are worshipping slaves of God. Others throne the divine throne in ecstasy. As matter is refined, life is intensified. Life is fundamental, basic, matter is dependent on it and subsists through it. If you compare a macroscopic organism with its 5 senses and man's senses, you will see that, however much larger man is than the organism, his senses are inferior to the same degree. The organism hears its brother's voice. It sees its food. If it was enlarged to the size of a man, its senses would be wondrous, its life dazzling, and the sight of it like a lightning flash lighting up the skies. Man is not a living being composed of dead beings, but a living human cell composed of thousands of millions of living cells. Man is like the Surah Yasin, in which is inscribed Surah Yasin. Blessed be God, the best of creators. Materialism is an immaterial plague. Materialism is an immaterial plague. Mankind caught this fearsome fever. Note, this alludes to the First World War. Its inculcation and imitation caused mankind to be visited suddenly by divine wrath. This plague spreads to the extent the ability to criticize spreads. It was inculcated by science and learned blind imitation from modern civilization. Freedom led to criticism, misguidance sprang from its pride. There is nothing idle in existence. The unemployed man works on account of non-existence. The most miserable, wretched, and distressed person is the unemployed. For idleness is non-existence within existence, death within life. Whereas exertion is the life of existence and the waking state of life. Usury and interest cause absolute harm to Islam. Usury is the cause of idleness. It extinguishes enthusiasm for work. The profit of the doors of usury and their containers, the banks, is always for the worst group of mankind, the infidels. The infidels' profits go to the worst of them, that is, the oppressors. The profit of the oppressors always goes to the worst of them, that is, the dissolute. It causes the world of Islam absolute harm. In the view of the Sharia, all mankind cannot always be prosperous. For a belligerent infidel is disrespectful, unchaste, and his blood is spilled for nothing always. The Qur'an will defend itself, and perpetuate its sovereignty. Note, this piece, which was written 35 years ago, is in a style that could have been written this year. That is, it was a sort of prediction inspired by the effulgence of Ramadan. I saw someone who was stricken by despair. He was sick with pessimism. He said, "The ulama have decreased in number. Quantity has replaced quality. I am frightened our religion will die out one day." I replied, "So long as the universe is not extinguished, Islamic belief will not die. Also, so long as the marks of Islam, the minarets of religion, the places of divine worship, the works of the Sharia, all like nails struck in the face of the earth, so long as they are not extinguished, Islam will ever shine. All the mosques are instructors, teaching their frequenters, and all the instructors have become masters through the tone of disposition, without error or forgetfulness. They instill in them the religion. All the marks are learned teachers, constantly teaching the spirit of Islam to those who look on them. With the centuries, they have become the cause of continuity. The lights of Islam are as though embodied in its marks, and the pure water of Islam has solidified in its places of worship, embodying them, each a pillar of belief. The injunctions of Islam are as though embodied within its works. The pillars of Islam have become petrified in its words, each a diamond pillar. Through them the earth and sky are bound together. Especially the orator of the Qur'an of miraculous exposition, a constantly repeated pre-eternal discourse, no village, no place at all has remained within the Islamic lands that does not listen to its address, does not hear its teaching, according to the inner meaning of, indeed, we preserve it. To be a hafiz is a very high station. To recite it is worship for man and jinn. It is for this reason it should be taught, and its incontestable matters mentioned. With constant repetition, theoretical matters become incontestable and turn into self-evident facts, not requiring further expounding. The essentials of religion ceased being theoretical matters and became essentials. To mention them is sufficient. To remind is enough. The Qur'an is always a healer. The Islamic revival and social awakening provides evidence for everyone and a balance for reminders and mentioning. Since social life began in Islam, the belief of an individual is not restricted to proofs particular to himself. It is based on the conscience. Indeed, it is based on innumerable matters in the common heart. It is worthy of note. It is difficult to abolish even a weak school of thought as time passes. So, what about Islam, which is based on the two firm foundations of revelation and innate disposition and has ruled so effectively for so many centuries? With its firmly rooted principles, its profound works, it has cohered to half the globe, becoming a natural spirit. If it is now eclipsed, it will immediately emerge. But, regrettably, certain giddy infidels with their false arguments attack the firm foundations of this lofty palace whenever they find the chance. They try to shake them, but those principles cannot be interfered with or tampered with. Fall silent now in religion. That scoundrel is bankrupt. Enough now the experiments of disbelief and lies. The Islamic world's advance post against the world of unbelief was the Dar al-Funun. But due to indifference and heedlessness, the reptilian foe of nature opened up a breach behind the front. Irreligion assaulted, the nation was well shaken. The advance post should be a paradise illuminated with the spirit of Islam. It should be the firmest and truly awakened or it should not be that institution. It must not deceive Islam. The heart is the seat of belief. The mind is where the light of belief is reflected. Sometimes it is a mujahid, sometimes it is a sweep. If the doubts of the mind do not enter the heart, the likelihood is belief, and the conscience will not be shaken. For if, as some people suppose, belief is in the mind, numerous possibilities, all pitiless enemies, oppose absolute certainty, which is the spirit of belief. The heart and conscience are the seat of belief. Intuition and inspiration are the evidence for belief. A sixth sense, the way of belief. Thought and intellect, the watchman of belief.